Welcome to UCF Imprint. I'm Alice Collier. Nothing could stop her. Not a teenage pregnancy, nor an abusive husband, not even poverty could break her spirit. My guest today was destined for success. Family members often lovingly call her Rochelle, yet around the country she is known by another name. But before I tell you her formal name, let me tell you more about her. She was born and raised in Oklahoma. In 1993, she was the first known African-American woman to receive a PhD in industrial engineering in the Sooner State. More recently, my guest was recognized as one of 10 2003 Small Businesswomen of the Year by the Orlando Business Journal, and she received the prestigious honor of being named Distinguished Educator of the Year for 2004 by the Society of Women Engineers. In her book entitled Winners Don't Quit, Today They Call Me Doctor, Dr. Pamela McCauley-Bell chronicles her rise to distinction. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to meet you. What an inspiring book.
Thank you so much.
Tell me, at what age did you realize that you wanted more in life?
Well, I think I wanted more very early on. My father and mother very much encouraged education in our home. And then after I became a teen mother, then it was absolutely essential to me to have more. I just wasn't exactly certain if I could do it and all of the hows too.
So you knew, would you say you think from grade school?
Probably so. Probably so. When I was in elementary school, Daddy said study hard and do good and do your homework and get your education. He always said get your education. And my dad was a drill sergeant in the Army and Mom was a secretary, and so they didn't have the opportunity to get their education, so that really was stressed in our home.
So with your dad being in the military, it wasn't like get your education, it was get your
Yes, you will get your education. Okay. Exactly.
Okay. And then you became a teenager and began to blossom and be beautiful and discovered boys.
I discovered one in particular. Yes, I did. And that was a very challenging time in my life. Many teenagers are insecure. You don't know exactly how you're supposed to act. You want to be cool. You want to fit in. You're not necessarily getting along with your parents. And so with all of those emotions going on, and hormones, oftentimes you do find yourself in situations that are much less than desirable. And that's exactly what happened when I met Annette's father.
And you were, what, 15?
I was 15, yes.
And tell us when you found out, and it starts in the book, about being pregnant.
Oh, it was devastating, absolutely devastating. I was an honor student, a cheerleader, and even I always tell the story that I thought maybe I'd have just a little bit of sex, you know, and there's no such thing as a little bit of sex. You know, either you have sex or you don't. And the proof is that I have a daughter. Mm-hmm. And so when I found that out, I just felt like my whole world was over. I really did feel like I wouldn't be able to accomplish my dreams. And as you note from the story, many people told me that very thing, that I would never accomplish my dreams, that my life was over, and that I'd be on welfare forever. And so it was very devastating. I thank God for my parents who were very supportive and very encouraging, not accepting the mistake in terms of saying that it's okay what you've done, but never holding back their love for me. And so I'm very thankful to them for that.
Well, you know, Pamela, what I took away from the book is that you got pregnant at 15, and it was in 1978. And yes. I want to put that in terms that young people can understand, because I'm a few years older than you. And I graduated from high school in 1978. Mm-hmm. And if you got pregnant, I mean, it was not like getting pregnant in the 50s, but it was really frowned upon. Not only that, not only by your parents, but by your peers. If that had happened to me, my girlfriends would have ostracized me. They would, you know, and I would have been put away. And I said, your mother is great, because mine would have killed me.
Yes, my mother is wonderful, my mom and my dad. But you're absolutely right, and I talk about that in this story. And that's not all bad that it was that way, because I do think in many respects it deterred that behavior. Today, I think it's a little too accepted. Yeah. I really do. And that's not to say we don't love the children and everyone doesn't make mistakes. But back then, when you got pregnant in 1978 and you were 15 years old and you didn't have a husband, that was very, very much frowned upon. And so what that did, that motivated me to not continue in that vein, making those types of choices that were not pleasing in my family's eyes, that were not happy decisions for the church. Because, and you hear in the book, I talk about how I was raised Baptist, very Baptist. Black Baptist in Oklahoma, and that is a very, very traditional approach to religion. And so the girls had to actually get up and apologize to the church if you got pregnant. And so this was not at all accepted. And so that, again, even though I don't think that it's necessarily a good thing to make people feel as bad as I did, there were some advantages to understanding that that's not the way that we need to bring our babies into the world or to raise them.
It wasn't the optimum situation, but you have a beautiful daughter, and
yes,
so.
I do.
But tell us, you, for a moment, were caught up in some decisions by your parents and the boy's parents about whether you should keep the pregnancy or not.
Right, right. That was a very painful situation. And even as I wrote this book, when I reflected back on that, I could still feel some of the hurt associated with just being in that situation. And the reason that I did write it is because I think there are a lot of women that have been in that situation, or girls who will be, and I want them to know that they're not alone. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person because you find yourself in that situation. But back to me, I was very, very confused. I did not want to be a mother. I wanted to be a cheerleader. I wanted to be a homecoming queen. This just was not part of my plan. And so I did plan to have an abortion. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I thought it was unfortunate at that time.
Right.
I was too far along in my pregnancy. And so my mother, she was doing this reluctantly anyway, of course, because she felt like it was the wrong thing to do. And so when I was too far along, she said, honey, we'll just take care of the baby and you'll be happy and your life will be great. Well, that truly was probably more significant in terms of a turning point in my life than was when I actually found out that I was pregnant, because I kept thinking, well, I can fix this, fix this situation.
And nobody will know.
And nobody will know. And I'll just talk to God, and he and I will work this out. And when I realized that I was actually going to be a mother, that's when my whole perspective on life changed.
Tell us about the birth.
Well,
I bet, being 15 and
yes.
I mean, I was 31 when I had my first. Okay, I can't imagine being a teenager.
Oh, it was scary. It was scary. I mean, I had never even had a pap smear. So I didn't know what to expect when I was going to have a baby. Now, fortunately, my mom put me in a school for pregnant teens. And so at that time, I learned about the birth and the pregnancy and everything to expect, and my mom was very encouraging and talked to me a lot through the whole process. And I was so blessed to have one of my teachers at that time, Mrs. Bennett, who was just the most encouraging, most wonderful teacher. I have a special place in my heart for teachers today because Miss Bennett had done so much to be encouraging. But she decided to be my labor coach because Annette's father at that time lived in Virginia and I was in Oklahoma. And I wanted to go through the labor the right way and have a healthy delivery and started doing everything for Annette. Once I realized I was going to have a baby, she started trying to be a good mom even when I was pregnant with her, and that included the delivery. And it was very emotional for me when she was born, because up to this point I had just been pregnant. I'm going to have a baby. And then when they put her in my arms, and I remember thinking, I'm going to work so hard to make a good life for you. And it was so real that now I have to be successful. It's not just me anymore. I have to take care of my baby.
So your dreams didn't die?
No, they didn't. They didn't. It was they took on a different kind of life. And before, it was just about Pamela, or as my family calls me, Rochelle, and I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that and wanted to be a cheerleader and be a doctor, and Daddy said I'd make a great doctor, and I had all these wonderful plans for my life. And then when I had Annette, it became about creating a good life for this baby, for this child who didn't ask to be born, but who needed a good mother, who I wanted to give a good life to, and I wanted her to have everything that a child who had a mother that was, say, 25 or 30 years old would have. And so she really was my motivation.
But still, you still finished high school.
I did.
And then went on to college.
Yes.
Recently, you gave the commencement address at Rose State College, your alma mater. What was that like?
It was so touching. It was very touching because that's where, of course, I always had a plan because Daddy always said, you have to have a plan for your life. You need to have a plan if you don't get anywhere in life. So we all had plans, what we were going to do. Well, my plan was to go to the University of Oklahoma. And when I couldn't, I enrolled in Rose State College, which was about 10 minutes from my parents' house. And that was very convenient because they could help me with a net. And the classes there were wonderful. The faculty was wonderful. I feel like I got a really first-class education there, and that prepared me for the university. Well, then when they contacted me to come back and give the keynote address and to walk through the campus there and see the classrooms and the buildings where I had been a student and where I only hoped that I would graduate, where I wasn't exactly sure, but really hoped that I would so that I could make that good life for me and for Annette. And then to walk back there and be the keynote speaker to encourage their students today was so moving for me. It really was. And I just hoped every student in that audience really, really walked away feeling that they could make all of their dreams come true.
While you were in college there, you met another man.
I did.
And got married. Tell us about that.
Well, that was not one of my best choices. I met him. He was a nice gentleman. I just didn't need to marry him. There are a lot of nice gentlemen that you need to have coffee with at Starbucks and then say goodbye to them.
But you're still a teenager. We'll give you that.
That's right. I was young. I was young and dumb. But anyway, I did learn. But I met him, and he was much older than I was, 10 years older than I was, and so had lots of wisdom that was helpful and had good things to share with me, and actually encouraged me to read my Bible. And he's one of the reasons that I started reading the book of Proverbs, which I do attribute a lot of my knowledge and learning to. So he was not an all bad person, but he was very insecure, had many issues that he needed to deal with and had not dealt with. And so as I entered this relationship with him, I had many signs that this wasn't the thing to do. But,
yeah, like the wedding. Big sign.
Okay, get the book. Alice is telling the whole story.
I won't tell that. I won't tell that.
I know. It's so funny. When my daughter read that part of the book, she started crying. She's like, oh, Mom, you poor thing. I can't believe you did that at your wedding. And I'm like, I am tough. Okay, but see, we have signs. Yeah. We have signs, but so often we are so determined that we are going to get this thing done and it's going to go down by God no matter what. And we have every possible warning in the world. Yeah. So I went ahead and jumped the broom, married him, knowing that he had problems, knowing that he had the potential to have a very explosive personality. And then, of course, and it resulted in his being physically abusive. And I was only married to him for about a year, but I never should have married him. But I have learned a lot from that. And that, when I shared those stories, I'm not sad at all about that. I'm thankful. I'm very thankful that I got out of that situation as quickly as I did and as healthy as I did.
Read some of that in your book. And this is why.
Okay.
She is thankful.
I am very thankful. And, let's see.
His name is Josh.
His name is Josh. Okay. Let me just to set the background for this. This is when I decided that I was going to leave him. And so I go to my girlfriend's house, and to Patrice's house. And he comes to get me, okay? And he kidnaps me. So he comes to the door. Patrice, just sit down. This is me speaking. Everything will be okay. Patrice reluctantly waited in the house with the girls. The last thing I wanted to do was cause problems for her by getting her involved with my marital bliss. I was really afraid that Patrice might shoot him. I walked onto the porch. Hey, sweetheart, he said. How are you? He said, trying to turn on that charm that made me fall for him. But I wasn't even coming close to work. But that wasn't even coming close to working today, and I didn't think it would ever work again. I didn't want any small talk. Josh, I said, it's over. I'm not happy with you, and I don't want to be with you. Rochelle, you're my wife. I love you, and I want you to come home. No, Josh, I'm not coming home. Please leave. I am not interested in talking to you about this. I need some time away from you. Please leave. And I turned to walk back in the house. As I turned, he grabbed me, picked me up off my feet, and was running with me. He threw me in the backseat of the car. I was screaming. I thought, this can't be happening. This was a scene from Penelope Pit Stop. So, and I don't want to read too much here, but to make a sort of a long story there short. So he kidnapped me, and I thought I was going to die. I really did. I thought I was going to die and never see my daughter.
Close.
Yes, yes. And I don't know what it was other than the grace of God that got me out of that situation, because he was very angry and very irrational. And so often we get ourselves in those situations when we had warning after warning after warning. And they may well be sorry that they hit you. They may well be sorry that they exploded on you. But going back doesn't help the situation. And so I encourage women who are in those situations, who are in situations that even are similar to that. He may not have already hit you, but don't allow yourself to stay there, because it doesn't help the abuser. It really doesn't.
Did it affect your self-esteem at all after that?
Well, it affected my confidence in my decision making. And so what I did, I got therapy. And I'm a big advocate of therapy, and many people don't like to go to therapy, and I'm a Christian, and especially a lot of Christian people. They say the Lord will help you with your problems and God is here. Well, God is here and He's wonderful and willing to help. Nevertheless, He put good qualified people on this earth to help us through some of these problems. And I desperately needed to be in therapy, and it was one of the best things I ever did in my life. One of the best things. It restored my confidence in my decision-making ability. It helped me see that before I did have the wisdom to make those choices. I just didn't believe that I was right in what I was thinking. And every time I saw one of those warning signs and chose to ignore it because he was a nice guy or I want to be kind and forgiving, then I was not trusting my own instincts. And so therapy really helped me to have confidence in my decision making and in who I am.
You know what I thought after I read the book? That you truly were destined for success. I mean, you get that after you read the book, and that you were on this path, and you just took a side trip. You just took a couple of them and got back on the road. And got back on.
Back.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Thank you.
And you made your way through the construction zones and everything.
Well, we went through some major detours here. Yes.
Why engineering?
Well, that's a good question. My dad told me I should be a doctor. I said that before. And I liked the math and the science classes, but I didn't like the sight of blood. And so I remember when I had the conversation with my father that, Daddy, this is just not going to be a kind of career that's going to make me happy. And I said, but I do think I want to study engineering. Now, what I'd actually done, I went and looked at some of the different majors that had math and science in them. And I thank God that my father insisted that we take algebra, me and my sister and my brother, when we were in 7th grade. And so every year after that, I took math classes. And parents should really think about doing that, because even if your children don't choose careers in math and science, the fact that they've had that much math and science in high school prepares them to do any career. Whereas if they only take the minimum requirement, then they're going to probably have a little more fear of math and science. But because I did have that foundation and then had taken those courses in college, I thought, well, engineering might be a good option. And I needed an income. I was a mom. I was a single mom at that time. And I said, I need something that when I graduate with a bachelor's degree, I can actually take good care of my daughter. And so I chose industrial engineering.
What kept you going? That's a long haul. When you're a young woman and you're looking and you have a responsibility of another life,
yes,
it looks like a long haul.
Right, right. You're absolutely right. Well, the options were, I was working as a waitress at Western Sizzlin', and then in the summer I worked 3 jobs. I worked at Western Sizzlin', that's a family steakhouse, then I worked at another high-end restaurant, and then I did temporary clerical work. And I thought, I do not want to work this hard or 3 jobs for the rest of my life. And so I said, if I don't finish my education, then my opportunities are going to be so limited. I am going to have to work this hard to have the kind of things I want for me and for my daughter. And so while that is probably a much more mature mindset than most 19, 20, or 21-year-olds would have, it was because I did look around at my situation. And I say this to young people a lot. If you just sit back for a minute, turn the TV off, turn the Game Boys off, turn off the phone, sit back and think about your life just for a few minutes. And if you do it a few minutes each day, that in itself will motivate you and help you understand, is this where I want to be next year, 5 years, or 10 years from now? Because I tell my daughter all the time, days turn to weeks, weeks to months, and months to years, and before you know it, you're celebrating your 30th and your 40th birthday, and things will not have changed in the manner in which you had hoped. So when you look at it like that and understand that, and Daddy used to always tell us, today is your future. And I thought, Daddy, that's so hokey. Today's my future, but it's very true. Very true statement.
I think it's the decisions you make every day
that
affect you in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you would get down and you know, have finals and studying and caring for, you know, a child, what did you do to you know, lift yourself up? Because you had to often encourage yourself.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Well, thank God for my mom. She is the most optimistic person in the world. And so when things would get difficult, I would talk to her a lot. Now, and not to say that we had a perfect relationship. In fact, we had a very, very stormy and challenged relationship for many years after Annette was born. And I really feel like that's because I disappointed her. And then I was dealing with the guilt of that as well. But she was always there and always encouraging. But I did have to encourage myself. And one of my favorite scriptures is where David encouraged himself in the Lord. And it's because so often you will have good people around you. And I've always been blessed to have that. And of course, a lot of that has to do with choice. But I had good friends around me that would encourage me. But sometimes when it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you've been studying for 4 hours and it still doesn't make sense, there's no one there. So you really do have to call on that inner strength. And for me, it was trusting in God to know that He was going to see me through. He was going to reward me for my faith in Him and for my work. And when you put those two together, that's a powerful combination, faith in God and being willing to work. Because a lot of times we just sit on the couch and watch Jerry Springer and say the Lord's going to work it out. Well, we have a part in this. I mean, we really do. And so my relationship with God really was the source of my strength. And then I'm a big reader, avid reader, love reading. And so I was always reading very positive books. My first positive book that my dad gave me, or motivational book, was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And then so every year I would read 2 or 3 good books from a positive standpoint. You Can If You Think You Can. I used to read that every year during finals weeks. I can get through finals if I think I can. And so that created that positive environment for me.
So you used a lot of inspiration, just
Yes.
from the Bible to get you through. And then you talked about Josh pointing you towards the book of Proverbs.
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to, those nuggets of wisdom?
Yes, the book of Proverbs is full of nuggets about wisdom and knowledge. And so, yes, that was very inspirational for me. And one of the things that I wondered, I used to say, Lord, I just don't know enough. I don't know enough to be a good mother. I don't know enough to know how to get through college. I don't know enough to be a good wife. I just always felt like I didn't know enough. And in the book of Proverbs, it said to ask for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and He will give that freely. And so I started doing that regularly. Lord, give me the wisdom to handle this situation. Lord, give me the knowledge to understand how to handle all of these problems. And it's true, I don't want to preach on your show, but God is true to His word. And so the knowledge came, the wisdom came, the confidence came to deal with those situations. And so a part of that was learning to create that positive environment. And so often we set ourselves by having negative people around us, watching negative things on TV, and then we have all this negativity. So when we face a problem, we hear the negativity coming into our minds and hearts to deal with the situation rather than positive things. And I always say, don't wait till you have a problem to start putting positive things in your life. Make that a regular part of your life so when the problems do come, you're prepared.
What voice did you hear? I'm sure your own when you walked across that stage to accept your PhD. I mean, what did you say to yourself?
Wow. Wow, that's a good question.
That you did it.
Yeah, well, that we did it, me and the Lord and my friends and my family, and everyone was so encouraging the whole while, that it almost didn't seem real. It almost didn't seem real. When I think back about that situation, to finally get to that point where I'd worked so hard, that almost did not seem real. And then after I sat back a few days later and thought about it, it occurred to me that my success really was not about me. It's about encouraging others. It's about helping other people really believe that no matter what your circumstances, the challenges you face, you can be successful. You can have a great life. If no one ever told you that before, you can have a great life. If I was able to do these things, clearly anyone who's really willing to set their mind to it and work hard and believe, they can too.
Now, Pamela, just for a little moment, did you want to go back to those naysayers and say, how do you like me now?
Oh, I did. Lord forgive me, I did. And let me tell you what. I did. because I'm stubborn. I am tough. When you tell me I can't do something, by God, that means I'm gonna get it done. Everybody doesn't have that attitude.
Right.
And I wanted them to know that just because you don't think someone is going to be successful, that's no reason to discourage them. Now, Pamela McCauley-Bell, I am just bulldog stubborn. And so they weren't going to stop me. Now, they slowed me down and I was hurt and I spent many nights and afternoons crying, questioning myself, but I didn't stop. And I see so many people that someone has discouraged them and they stopped. And we need to get about the business of not saying negative things to people. If we don't have something positive to say, Mama told us a long time ago, don't say anything at all. If you can't find something constructive and encouraging to say, then just don't say it at all. And we're so eager and so quick to offer our advice, and oftentimes it's destroying people's dreams.
Tell us about these CDs that you have.
Oh, I would love to.
You're going to tell a lot of information.
I would love to. My latest project is called The Word on the Go. And this is a collection of 5 CDs on different topics. And what it is, it's scriptures, just scriptures. It's an introduction, and then I'm reading scriptures. And my precious daughter Annette did the introduction on the CD and the closing. And the whole point of this is we all live such hectic lifestyles. We're all so very busy. And for me, hearing scriptures and the Word of God has always been such a great source of strength for me. But with my job, with being a professor at UCF and also having my engineering business and doing lectures and motivational speeches, my time is very limited in terms of my ability to sit down and just read and study the Bible. And sometimes I need to just hear scriptures on a particular topic. So I did these CDs, and the topics are faith, forgiveness, healing, protection, and prosperity. And to just give you just a little more background, the original reason that I did these CDs was for my daughter. She was in Oklahoma at the time, and she was saying, Mom, I'm so tired, I'm frustrated, and I've got to get through school. And I said, honey, read your Bible, read this. And she said, Mom, I don't have time. Mom, I just don't have time. And so I called her one morning. I said, honey, I'm recording some scriptures for you on a cassette tape. You will hear these. And so I mailed it to her. And then my business partner, he said, Pamela, can I get a copy of that cassette tape? And I said, sure. And then so one morning in my prayer time, the Lord said, you need to get this out to more people. And then the Word on the Go was born. And so the CDs actually just came out this week. The publisher is IP Publishing, and they're available at ippublishingonline.com.
And you have a website. Give us
I have
that
a
address.
website, winnersdon'tquit.com.
Pamela,
Okay.
thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure, and I told you I read your book on Mother's Day, and that's an emotional time for me anyway on Mom's Day, and just sat at the beach and cried. It is truly inspiring, not just for young women.
Thank you.
But for those of us who are a little on in years. So thank you.
So
Thank
much,
you for
Alice.
being a
You're
part of this
welcome.
program. And again, the book is called Winners Don't Quit. Today they call me Doctor, and that's our program for now. Thanks so much for watching UCF in Print. I'm Alice Collier. Until next time, goodbye.